Hi everyone, so today's video is all about, do I personalize things or do I take things quite personally? And if I do, how do I cope with it? How do I cope with taking things personally? Now, first of all, we are very different to how everyone else is, and the way that we think, the way that we behave, not everyone else thinks and behaves in this way. And often what can happen is we come from our view. So if someone's done something like, I don't know, it's someone's birthday and you've gone out your way and you've really made a big effort, and then it's your birthday and you haven't had that same response that you gave to someone else, and you feel really hurt, real disappointment, real upset that, but I've done this, why hasn't anyone done this for me? And this is where it can really hurt us, because we're coming from our view, but everyone else is coming from their view and the way that they see the world. And we can then personalize it. Well, is it because I'm not good enough, or is it because no one likes me, or is it because people think that I'm X, Y, and Z? And that takes us away from what really might be going on, and it might be that their love language or their way of showing affection might be very different to the way that you show affection. But what can happen is then we can build up in our minds that, well, we're not good enough and maybe I need to try harder. And then you try harder and then you don't get back what you want, or you're there for your friend and you're constantly making sure that they're okay because they're going through a hard time. And then you realize that you're going through a hard time and there's no one there for you, and there's no one there to support you or look after you. And then you're thinking, why is there no one here for me? What's going on? Is it because no one is loving me the way that I do? And why is that? And I think we need to just make sense of where is it that they're at and how do they see the world versus how we see the world, because we can then get caught up with, well, I'm not good enough, and we then personalizing it, thinking that it's because of us, rather than seeing like the bigger picture of, well, where is it that they're coming from and how do they show affection? How do they show us that they care? Because their version of care might be very different. And if we can understand this, it can really help us moving forward, because it can give us more insight into ourselves and why we might personalize things, and coping with expectations of others, coping with being able to understand other people's behaviors and how we want to interpret it as well. Because what can happen is if we feel then that we're not loved or we're not cared for, instantly our defense mechanisms go up, and we may notice that we distance ourselves, or we become distanced from this person now because we feel like, well, they don't care about me. And rather than being able to speak about the elephant in the room, we then personalize it and think it's because of me or it's because of this, and we try to protect ourselves. And that protection comes from a trauma-based response of maybe once upon a time that's what we had to do. It's a pattern of behavior where we do things for so many people. We do things. We don't get back what we want back from them. And what can happen is then we put up the guard and we shut them down because we think, well, I don't think that this person understands me or they really care for me. Not understanding that their view of it is very different. Now, this can also happen in work, for instance. If someone's giving us feedback, it may be a manager, it might be an employee, and they're trying to give us feedback, it can feel like, oh my God, they think I'm a bad person, they think that I'm not good enough. And we then fall down that rabbit hole of thinking that this person now doesn't like us. So next time we go into the office or next time we see this person, we're a little bit more like on edge with them because we think that they don't like us, whereas what they might be doing is giving us feedback, giving us honest, constructive feedback. And yes, there might be people in life where they haven't given us constructive feedback and they've told us, you need to be like this, you should be like this, you should be like this, and because of that you've been on edge. But sometimes there's also honest feedback and there's valuable feedback that you can take from people, and it's about saying, right, thank you for sharing that, and having space away to really make sense of what this person said to you, but how it's made you feel. It is so important that you understand, how is it that I'm now feeling when someone has said this to me? Because if you can understand this, you can then understand, how do I want to now respond to this? And you may have already reacted, you may have already gone into your defense mode and the way that you know or the way that you feel you need to react, because that's the way that you've always reacted to keep yourself safe. But you don't always have to do that moving forward. You can learn a new way of responding to feedback that's been given to you, where people may say something to you and you being okay with what they've said to you and really taking it and having that space away to really make sense of what is it that you feel, how is it that you have shown up, and what's come up for you. By you understanding that, it gives you insight, it gives you an understanding of how you are with people and what certain triggers you with certain people. And that then helps you to become an effective leader, an effective manager, an effective employee, because you're able to communicate what's going on for you without what might be going on in your internal world, that coming out through your trauma-based way of responding, or your pattern that's been your ongoing pattern. You don't need to keep presenting that way, because you now understand, actually, no, I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply what they've said, but I'm not going to personalize it and think they're attacking me, because maybe once upon a time that's what happened and that's what we thought was happening. So we went to school, or we were doing something, and parents around us or other people around us growing up, don't do this, you need to behave like this, do this, make sure you're doing this, you're not doing this right, you need to do this more, you need to do this. And we now perceive people feedbacking to us as they're telling us off, or it's because I'm not right. And that may come from what we've experienced, and this has become our conditioning, that when people give me feedback, it means then that I've done something wrong or I'm a bad person. And that's not what's happening. And that's why we want to try and break this pattern, break this way of being, because we don't need to take on board what people are saying and take it and think that that's what is true about me. And if we have our strong sense of self, we no longer take all of this and personalize it, because we realize that no, this is what's right for me, or this is what I believe to be true. But taking on board also what they might be saying, and you can also respond back. So what do you mean by that when you say that, to help you understand more about where they're coming from and what they might be saying. So you don't need to feel scared when people give feedback. You don't need to worry about it, because it's their view of what might be going on, and you can take it and ask and probe more questions about what they might be saying. But also you can, if you don't have the space to do that, or you don't feel it's appropriate to do that, you can do it in your own time, where you're then reflecting back and thinking, what did I feel? What do they mean by this? Or where do I feel like they're coming from? To make sense of it, so you haven't got these open loops in your head thinking, it must be me, it must be my fault, I'm not doing enough, I'm a bad person. And we're closing these loops, our own interpretation of self. So on that note, if you have struggled with feedback, if you have really personalized things and you want more support, please subscribe, because there's another video where we go into the tips and techniques, and it'd be great to just for you to learn more about tips, techniques, and ways forward from this, and also identifying your sense of self and developing that sense of self that you have. Because the more grounded you are and the stronger sense of self that you have, the more then you're able to understand other people's views, but also know that this is who I am, knowing and grounding yourself with that. So when people come in and give feedback, we're not then thinking and taking that on board and becoming that. Rather, we're taking on board, okay, I get that, I'm appreciative that they've given me this feedback, but I'm not going to allow this feedback then to stop me from being who I know I am. So on that note, I'm going to be sending you lots of love and light, and have an amazing day. Make sure that you subscribe, you like, you comment, and I will speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye bye.